What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 11th Hour Game Channel. I'm AJ Gels. I am continuing my E3 coverage. There wasn't a press conference just released. I was watching this again. I stream all this through IGN. You know, I'm a big IGN guy. I just watched a big sit down, about an hour long talk with some of the developers of Mafia 3. I'm gonna talk about that a little bit here. If I seem a little rushed, I'm sorry. The Bethesda conference starts in about 30 minutes, so you know, I still wanted to talk about this while it's fresh in my mind. This game looks awesome. I liked the second one, but the third one seems like it's going to be so over the top, so much fun. Huge open world guy. But yeah, I mean, be sure but before I start, be sure to check out all my E3 coverage. You know, I just, already today, I have, my video from the EA press conference. Like I said, I'm about to, in about a half hour, watch the Bethesda conference and do another video. After that, tomorrow is, Microsoft, Sony, and Ubisoft, and I believe the PC gaming show is also tomorrow, so I might check all those out. So there's a lot of coverage coming out to you guys. Please check it all out. Check out the variety of other stuff I have on this channel. Let's Play is my weekly news show that goes live every Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Down in the description is my Facebook, Twitter, my website. Stay up to date with everything I'm doing on those, and go check out my website for all my reviews. There we go. Just brushed through that. All right, here we go. Mafia 3, and by the way, Mafia 3, you can start playing that October 7th, and you will definitely be able to play that with me here on this channel if you want. This talk did kind of start with something that actually I didn't know about. Apparently, last night, there was a big shooting in Orlando. I think I looked it up on the internet. Everything was like 50 victims. I wasn't sure if that was dead or 50 just victims. But, you know, they started with this statement that I have to concur with, that, you know, that the hearts are with the families and all that. Same with me. I didn't mention this earlier because, like I said, I didn't hear about it. You know, I slept in today because I knew I'd have to be up late doing this. So again, my heart's thoughts, feelings, prayers, whatever, what have you, goes to the families and the victims of that incident. Yeah, and now after I talk about that deep meaning and stuff, now I'm going to talk about a game where you shoot a lot of people in the face. That's appropriate. But no, I mean, I am here to talk about Mafia 3, and they even said it in their little thing before they talked about this game, that this game is this is M-rated and a mob-based game, that, you know, that this is a violent thing. So yes, you know, they weren't trying to be, I'm not trying to be inappropriate talking about this, but it's, you know, it's what it is. And kind of just to get this out of the way, you know, for anybody who hasn't heard, basically Mafia 3 takes place in 1968 in New Bordeaux, which is basically Hangar 13's version of New Orleans. It's like Los Santos was Los Angeles, so, you know, it's that kind of thing. They showed the exclusive like the E3 trailer, kind of, and I'll kind of break it down the way that they broke it down, because they also did their own like little trailer breakdown. But two things that I've kind of pulled out from it. It seems that there may be a fight club, like, you know, like they showed this like Lincoln going out into a cage match. They kind of mentioned in the trailer that was going to be kind of like a set piece, but maybe there might be some gambling and some fighting. I kind of hope so, because that sounds really fun. And something else that I didn't think of, like at this time we are down in the South, the KKK. It did show a lot of KKK members, you know, like Burning Cross, and like, and it's something I'm really happy they're doing with this game. They aren't shying away from the racial sensitivity of the era, like they've said in previous talks and interviews and whatnot, that like when you're in like the higher class neighborhoods, the cops will be more likely to shoot to kill, or they'll be more wary of what you're doing as you play Lincoln Clay, Vietnam vet, who's he's half black. I say black, African American, again, whichever one you prefer. He's half, you know, half African American, half we don't know at the moment. Apparently, it's important to the narrative. Apparently. So kind of like the progression of Lincoln, you know, he starts off as an orphan. As he's growing up, kind of gets in with the black mob in New Orleans or Bordeaux. Becomes a soldier in Vietnam. From what I remember, he becomes kind of like a special ops guy. And, you know, you kind of see some of his special ops training and the stuff that he does while you're moving around. You know, just the way he carries himself. He carries himself like a soldier. He shoots like a soldier, you know, like he can shoot with his pistol in both hands. It's, you know, apparently something that they teach you in the military almost right away. But after you come back home, you kind of it kind of shows this idea of this. I think they call it like the Night of Blood, where it's this. He's at this like little jazz club with some of his old mob friends, and while the Italians betray them, come in and kill them all, Lincoln gets shot in the head, or you can see throughout most of the game he has this scar down the side of his head where he just missed. But now kind of and there's kind of your intro into this. Now I'm actually going to kind of go into how they broke down the trailer. Basically, the way they're explaining the story of this game is being told kind of in this documentary style, or kind of setting. It kind of opens with this like the Senate hearing. They're talking to this like former FBI agent. They're like, did you help Lincoln Clay in his takedown of the Italian mob in New Bordeaux? And he's like, damn fucking right I did. And he's like not even trying to hide. He's like, oh yeah. They show the it kind of it kind of opens with that. Then it kind of shows the Night of Blood. Like shows Lincoln lying there bleeding out with a wound in his head. He's rescued kind of by a priest who kind of seen. I think they have some sort of past together. And then we see jeez. We get a look at some of the underbosses. We see Cassandra, I'm trying to think here. Cassandra, the kind of Haitian, the Haitian underboss. She's kind of, she's one of them. Then we see McGuire or Buck. He's the, jeez. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My bad. We see McGuire. He's a character in this documentary. He's an FBI agent who's basically chasing Lincoln. I think one of the best quotes he had in this trailer was kind of this, where he sits there and he's basically saying, that the city's basically survived, the Civil War, the War of 1812, and countless hurricanes, and Lincoln Clay's like chase down, trying to disassemble the mob, basically caused more damage than all of those put together. I mean, here's a great quote. So I mean, obviously there's going to be some law aspects in this game that are kind of chasing down Lincoln and this family, this kind of crime family that he's building. Geez, I'm sorry. I'm like, there's so much here in this, just kind of like dissect from the from this game. Then it kind of continues. There's going to be 9 districts in this game. There's 9 districts in the Bayou, so 10 total. Then we see Buck, the Irish underboss, Vito, the Italian underboss, who's he's back from Mafia 2. He's the Italian leader. Apparently they kind of talk about how like none of these underbosses none of you are friends. It's kind of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. They all have their reason to go after the main enemy, who is Sal Marcano, who's kind of the big head of New Bordeaux, the Italian leadership. I kind of get into what their kind of thing is with Marcano in a little bit. But basically Marcano, he's, the main bad guy, the head of the Italian mob. He's kind of, as they kind of put it, the hero in his own story. So as this game kind of proceeds, we get this kind of look into Marcano that we're going to see more about him and learn more of his motivation. He's not just going to be kind of this like one-dimensional, just he's the bad guy, so go get him. We're going to understand how Marcano grew to power and how Marcano kind of sees himself. And I really like this idea because, it's a thing with me. I love character development, and it was my thing with Assassin's Creed Syndicate. We never really saw these characters, like, why they thought they were doing was good, or we never kind of saw this stuff. But I really think in this game, I think we're going to get like this kind of delve into who this bad guy or who Marcano is. Then it kind of showed some, they talked a little bit about the driving. And again, like I said, this is all during the trailer, like they were kind of pausing on screens and doing like little talking bouts and whatnot. They were talking about how driving is apparently, it's being kind of carried over from Mafia 2, but they're making it even better, making it feel like even more like all vehicles are going to kind of handle differently. It's like if you're driving a muscle car, there's going to be, it's like as every car has weight, so it's like your muscle cars are going to handle a little differently from your other cars and this that. As they kind of they want to make you kind of feel like a Hollywood stunt driver. So that's kind of exciting. Jeez, A lot of notes for this. Apparently, there's going to, in kind of talking about what I was saying by the underbosses, there's going to be kind of the system of the underbosses. You know, all of them were wronged kind of by Marcano. And the idea is, as you take over the districts and the territories, you kind of give and split up this territory, kind of, you divide and split up this territory to the individual your 300 bosses. Basically, these can kind of offer you two type of rewards. Sometimes it's like a one-time thing where it's like, here's a new weapon, or maybe you get like a new associate. You know, and again, I can talk about these associates more later. But they kind of talked about, you know, I guess from the ones that I saw, it's like you can kind of get this like roving gun dealer, you know, who can kind of pull up to you in a truck and open up, and you can get this. Sometimes I think with one of the things for Burke is, or the Irish guy is, I can't remember if it's Buck or Burke, but you know, oh, it's Burke. I'm sorry. Jeez, they one of the things for him, like, he opens you up to like IRA contacts, so you know you can get cheaper explosives. So you know, it's that kind of idea. So basically, it behooves you to split up your territory amongst your underbosses. But the thing is, your underbosses will kind of respond dynamically to how you're splitting this up. Like in the game that they showed. You know what? I'll talk about that. I'll kind of dive into that later. I'm sorry. I know I'm kind of doing this in the order that they talked about. Basically, then they kind of switched over, and then they talked about the three different bosses that we have and the kind of their motivation. We have Cassandra. Like I said, she's she's Haitian. Basically, her kind of motivation, she's been attempting to gain kind of like a foothold in the city. Obviously, she's being stopped by Marcano. You have Burke, who's a former ally with the Italians, but they kind of betrayed him, so he's kind of looking for some revenge. So, you know, kind of teaming up with Lincoln will kind of allow him to do that. And then you have Vita Scaletta, the, like I said, the main protagonist from Mafia 2. As they kind of put it, he's been sidelined by Marcano. Not exactly sure. Apparently, after the events of Mafia 2, sometime after that, he got sent down to New Orleans, or to New Bordeaux, and Marcano kind of laid him off to the side. So I'm assuming, you know, Vito's kind of more your old school Italian mafia kind of character, while Burke and Cassandra are kind of your newer, again, like the 1960s saw like a very brand new kind of mafia, not just like your what you think about your typically like your Godfather Italian mafia. I mean, Vito kind of resembles that, but you know, with Burke we see kind of more of this like IRA kind of look, this more. Again, it's kind of hard to explain. You know, Cassandra, we see a lot more like drug running in this, but you know, these are very interesting characters, very dynamic characters. I can't wait to see how they actually interact once the game comes out. Then we got to break down into some of the different districts. I think I have 1, 2, 3. I think they showed 4 of the districts. The 4 we saw were the Bayou. Basically, it's where the Italians run their guns and make moonshine. You have Belray Hollow, something like that. Basically, this was the home of Lincoln before the Italians betrayed the Black Mob. Basically, now it's controlled by the Dixie Mafia, and it's basically for the sex trade and drugs. If you don't know, yes, the Dixie Mafia, it's a thing. Watch the show Justified. There's a lot of stuff with the Dixie Mafia. In a lot of ways, they're a lot more violent than the Italians. Then you have Frisk Fields, which is kind of your it's kind of your upper class your kind of upper class district, where Marcano kind of has connections with the Southern Union in Cook's PCP. And if you can't figure it out, the Southern Union, yeah, it's a racist thing. Racists. And then the final kind of district they showed was the French Ward, which is, you know, your kind of like historical district. I think it actually is the French Ward in New Orleans. I don't know. I don't know my New Orleans geography that well. But basically, this district is run by Marcano's brother, Uncle Lou. Basically, that's where they sell mostly smack, and Lou also runs high-class prostitutes to the politicians, the upper level people. And then we kind of jump into some actual gameplay. We get to see, we see this like kind of like mobile store from a connection via Cassandra. It shows, Lincoln buying, kind of kitting up to go in and take out I'm trying to think, one of Uncle Lou's pimps. So, you know, they kind of showed like a pseudo stealth approach where you kind of sneak in, you shoot them in the face, and then you kind of take out the reinforcements, and then you kind of run away. You know, that's kind of how you get out. Like they said later on that this is kind of a one of the many ways like these things have they're like extremely dynamic in how you want. I use that word dynamic a lot. You know, they're extremely open on how you want to play it. You can choose. You know, do you want to, you know, like there's like you can just drive through a gate and with your car guns blazing, or you can kind of go in stealth. You can do, you know, you can play it a bunch of different ways. And then during the shootout, it shows Lincoln kind of using this interesting little piece of technology, his little earpiece. If you see it in certain shots, he has this earpiece. Basically what it does is it allows him to kind of make calls, or it was basically given to him by a, if you remember what I said earlier about the FBI agent Donovan, who kind of helped him out. He kind of gave him like some early tech, which basically it was like an early radio. So, you know, it kind of allows him to make calls without having to run to a payphone, while everyone else, you know, somebody sees him commit a crime, they have to run to a payphone. It's kind of an interesting idea. But now, but, you know, he shows him kind of calling back up. You know, that's one of the services Vito kind of provides him. Then we kind of jump in, you know, then it kind of shows kind of like an overview of all the stuff that you can do. And this is just within the French district. You can destroy drug boats. And this one's probably my favorite. Rob an orgy. You kill smack dealers, interrogate pimps, capture brothels, rob bagmen, and capture drug dens. Basically, you know, you do all this. You're basically cutting into Uncle Lou's, basically his profits. Like that's kind of what you're doing. You're trying to, I think, cause so much damage, and then it kind of opens you up to this big set piece mission where they showed Lincoln going after Lou on this kind of riverboat, where they said that this is kind of one of those events where it's more of a set piece, where it's more action based, but but there are certain parts of it that you can kind of do a little stealth. It's not, they're still pretty open, but they're a little more set piece, you know what I mean? They're a little more linear, these particular missions, but everything before that is just extremely and completely open, which I think is going to be absolutely amazing to go and run around and explore in once the game is out in October. And then it explains, you know, kind of like the next kind of part in the gameplay loop called the sit downs. Basically, it's where you sit down and you distribute the territory of the conquered district. It's basically, I think it's like, as I kind of understand it, I could be a little off here. It's as you take over certain rackets, you kind of give them to one of the three underbosses to kind of control. So, you know, it's like you take over a drug den. Okay, you don't shut the drug den down. You basically take it over, and you're putting Cassandra, Vito, or Burke in charge of it. Well, then, once you take over the entire district, you can choose who to give the territory to, who's going to run the entire district in the day-to-day operations. Well, in the playthrough that they were showing, you're basically giving more and more territory to Cassandra, and Burke isn't very happy. He's pretty pissed. You know, in kind of before this is kind of where it gets into, you see them respond dynamically to this. It shows them sitting down, and, you know, Burke's yelling at Lincoln, you know, it's like, well, this is why you should give to me, because, you know, I'm pissed off. You haven't been giving anything to me. What the hell? I deserve this. And then Vito kind of, you know, and then they all kind of weigh in. You make the decision in this in this playthrough. You know, they showed him giving the territory to Vito, which kind of leads to something bad happening, because once he kind of hands this district over to Vito, Burke becomes very unhappy. Like he said, you know, he kind of storms away from the table, basically saying, the next time I see you, you'll be at the end of my gun. Then you kind of have to go, you find Burke on his turf, and you basically take out Burke. That's the kind of idea of this. So it's kind of this, like, rocky, tumultuous kind of friction between these characters who none of them really like each other. So you kind of have to play babysitter a little bit. And this is apparently they say this is kind of one of the neat things about Lincoln Clay, is how he's very It's kind of how it's something that why he was in kind of that special forces training in the military was because he has this kind of ability to kind of draw people in and kind of like keep them together. So that's kind of the way you're doing this. Again, I think this kind of opens it up to many different ways to play it, many different approaches. It's going to be absolutely fascinating. I cannot wait to get my hands on this. The final things that happened, they kind of opened up to some questions. 3 questions that I really liked. One, somebody asks, is this game basically going to be completely open world, unlike Mafia 2? If you played Mafia 2, you know that it was open, but there was just jack to do. There's nothing to do in it. It was kind of boring. But unlike Mafia 2, they say yes, but as they kind of say, but everything that you do in the story, everything that you do in the game basically has to do with the story, and by what I mean by that is all the activities, all the side stuff, it all contributes to the main game. There's always something to do, but it contributes to its main narrative and story in the actual gameplay loop, and that's what I really like, that we're not getting nothing against Assassin's Creed 4, but I mean that was, I think, where Assassin's Creed kind of started this. There's crap tons of things to do, and almost all of it has nothing to do with anything. In this game, everything has to do with Lincoln taking down the mob, and again, I keep saying I cannot wait to get my hands on this. Next question was, do you think it would be a good idea to play Mafia 3 without 1 and 2? The answer simply is yes. They said this is a game that you can kind of jump in without playing the first 2 Mafia games. I'd say you can play Mafia 2 without having to play the first one. I didn't play the first one. So you can kind of jump into this game on its own. But they do say that, yeah, I mean, if you play Mafia 2, you're going to know Vita Scaletta, you're going to know, you're going to know that character. There's going to be some little nods to if you know the other games. So it's one of those that, yeah, maybe you would play them. I mean, they're not saying don't, but they're saying you don't have to. And then finally, kind of like the last question is, it's like, is it kind of like the same thing over and over again? And they basically said that no, basically all activities that you do, it's like, I explained the stuff that you did in the French Quarter, but what you do in the French Quarter is different than what you do out in the Bayou, because out there you might go do pot runs, you might go do this, you might go do that. Out there in that upper class district, you might be doing these things, and you're always doing something different depending on what district you're in. And again, I just think this is what makes this game so great in its idea that it's the cities. It's kind of its own character. It's like the way the people interact with Lincoln. And again, I'm so glad that they're not shying away from the fact that race was a big deal at this time period. Especially in the South. I think this game is going to be absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to play it. Coming to all consoles October 7th, so that's PS4, Xbox One, and PC. You can catch me playing it on Xbox One starting October 7th right here on this channel. Guys, like I said at the beginning, if I'm on Facebook, Twitter, on my website, down in the description below, hit me up. Check out the rest of my E3 press conference coverage. Check out my weekly show, The 11th Hour. That goes live every Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Check out my Let's Plays. That's all I got for you guys right now. So in about 7 minutes, I'm about to watch the Bethesda press conference. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm AJ Gills. This is the 11th Hour Gaming Channel. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'm out.